The next application is ratio and percentage combined. Ratio and percentage combined. So here you are going to combine ratio. We are done with ratio in the last semester. Okay, so ratio and percentage combined. A school presents 200 candidates for examination. The ratio of a boy to a girl is 5:3 respectively. I. How many boys were presented for the examination? II. If 24% of the girls and 28% of the boys were passed with distinction, what percentage of candidates obtained distinction? Wow. So now, the total number of candidates was 200, and we're giving a ratio that's 3:5:3. Now, they want the percentage of candidates who obtained distinction. Okay, so the ratio of the boys to the girls is 3:5. And how many boys were present for the examination? So the 5 is for the boys and the 3 is for the girls, right? So if I want to know how many boys present, is what we do the ratio is 5 out of the total, okay, times the number of candidates present, then I'll get the boys. Okay, so this is for the boys. Since I know the boys, I can also solve for the girls. Okay, good. So the girls is those who pass, the girls who pass for distinction is 75, because since I know the number of boys, then the girls will be 75, because if subtract 125 from 200, you get 75. Now, if 24% of the girls and 28% of the boys pass with distinction, so 24%, that's 24 out of 100, times the girls, and the girls is what? 75, since we know the boys is what? 1 through 5. This is what I'm saying. 200 minus the 1 through 5, you will get 75. Okay, and this for the girls. So therefore 24% of the girls is this. Then we have this. Then we have 18 girls. Okay, 18 girls. Then the boys. So 18 girls have distinction. Wow. Then the boys, 28 boys who pass. So 28 of what? The boys, and the boys is 1 through 5. Then mean that 35 boys have distinction. The question is, what percentage of girls obtain distinction? What percentage of candidates obtain distinction? Since now we know the number of girls obtain distinction and number of boys obtain distinction, we just add them, then we send percentages. Okay, the sum obtain distinction is 80 plus 35, that's 53. And they say what percentage? What percentage? So what percentage that obtain this one? It's very easy. That's 53 out of the total times 100%. Okay, so the total was 200, so that's the percentage. So therefore they have for 26.5%. That's for ratio and percentage combined. Very easy. Question 2. We are still on the ratio and percentage combined. A manufacturer find that the cost of material and labor to make a certain article are in the ratio 3:5 respectively. The manufacturer sells to a retailer at a profit of 27.5, and the retailer sells to a customer at a profit of 25%. The customer pays 6,375 Ghana cedi. A. Calculate how much the article cost the manufacturer. for the material and for the labor. B, if there is 20% rise in the cost of labor, but no increase in the cost of material, and the manufacturer decided not to increase the price charged to the retailer, calculate the profit percent which the manufacturer then makes. Good. Solution. The retailer cost price. So from the question, the manufacturer finds it, we are given the ratio. The retailer cost price. The manufacturer sells to the retailer. Why the retailer cost price? Because here, the problem is you have to find the manufacturer cost price. Because I say that calculate how much the article costs the manufacturer for what? Material and labor. So we want to calculate how much the article costs the manufacturer for material and labor. So before we find it for the cost of material and labor, that's manufacturer, you have to know the cost price of what? The manufacturer. Then use the ratio to get for the labor and what? The material. Since you don't know the cost price of the manufacturer, then you have to find the cost price. Now, the cost price for the manufacturer here, the manufacturer sells to a retailer at 12%. We only have 27.5%. That's what we only have. The retailer sells to a customer at 25%, and the customer pays this. Meaning that the retailer sells to a customer of 6,375 Ghana cedi. That's what the retailer sells to. If the customer pays, that's what the retailer sells to what? The customer. Good. So for the retailer, we know the profit and the selling price. That's why you have to solve for the retailer, because the manufacturer sells to the retailer too. So now if you know what the retailer, the cost of price for the retailer, you will know for the manufacturer. Okay. Since the manufacturer sells to the retailer, if you know the cost of the retailer, that would be what the manufacturer sells to the retailer. Good. So let's solve for the retailer cost price. So we now know the selling price and the profit percent. You have to find the cost price of the retailer. And earlier, I proved to you that for the profit percent, we have so many formulas. So we know for the cost price, which I did earlier under the profit and loss for you, and this is the formula. Good. Since we know the selling price and the profit percent, we can solve for the cost price, and which is this. So now the cost price for the retailer is 5,100 Ghana cedi. Good. And this cost price is what the manufacturer sells to the retailer. Because the manufacturer sells to the retailer, so the retailer bought from the manufacturer. So the cost price here becomes the selling price for the manufacturer. Good. So now we can write for the manufacturer cost. So now the selling price is this for the manufacturer. Okay. The cost price of retailer is the selling price of the manufacturer. This is what the manufacturer sells to the retailer. And the profit percent is 27.5. So therefore, we find the cost price of the manufacturer. And this is the formula. Then we do it. Then the cost price for the manufacturer is this. Very simple. So please read the question and understand them. The next one, let's continue the solution. Now that I know the cost price of the manufacturer, then the question again, calculate how much the article costs the manufacturer for material and labor. So the cost of material and labor are in a ratio 3:5. So material is 3, labor is 5, then the total is 8. So ratio for the cost of material is 3/8 times the cost price of the manufacturer, which is 4,000 Ghana cedi. 4,000 Ghana cedi, and we have 1,500 Ghana cedi. Then we can solve for the cost of what? Labor. That's 5/8 times the cost price of the material, the manufacturer. Then we have this. Good. So that's for the A. They want to know the cost of what? The material, the manufacturer for the material and for the labor. B. If there is 20% rise in the cost of labor, so 20% rise in the cost of what? Labor. So labor was 2,500 Ghana cedi, and they say there's a rise, okay? So 20% of this, that is like percentage increase, okay? Good. We do it. Percentage increase. Then you multiply it, and later you add it. Good. So then you had it 500. So for us to get the cost of this, we have to add the 500 plus or 2,500 to know the cost of the labor. Okay, that's the cost of the labor. Good. So since now I know the cost of the labor, then we can solve for it. But now I know the rise of the cost of the labor, but no increase in the cost of material. So there's no increase in the cost of material. New cost price of the material and labor. So no increase, mean that there's no increase the cost. So now the cost price and the material is the material or my increase, so there's no increase, and the cost of labor have changed. So therefore, our manufacturer is this. That's for the cost of labor. Our new manufacturer cost is this. That's all. 4,500 Ghana cedi. 4,500 Ghana cedi. It says calculate the profit percent. Calculate the percentage profit which manufacturer then make. So the new profit which manufacturer then make, since now we know the cost price and the selling price. The selling price, we already talked about the selling price, and know the cost price. This is our selling price, we talk about it, 5,100 Ghana cedi, and the new cost price have changed. So therefore, our profit is this. Then profit percent is 13.3%. Okay, since we know the profit percent, that's the 13%. Ratio and percentage combined. The cost of producing a wireless set was 4 Ghana cedi. The manufacturer sold it to a wholesaler at a profit of 20%. The wholesaler also sold it to a retailer at a profit of 25%. The retailer marked the set to be sold at a price of 50% above what he paid. Find the mark price. To a customer who paid cash and the retailer reduced the price to 7 cedi 50 pesos. Find the percentage discount. Wow, what a question. Solution. So for us to get the mark price, let's go back to the question. The cost of production is 4 cedi. Then you are saying that the manufacturer sold it to a wholesaler at a profit of 20%. So for us to get the manufacturer selling price, 20% of the cost, then we get the profit, then we add to what? To the cost of production. Then we know that there's an increase. Okay, the person have a profit of what? So let's see. The manufacturer selling price 20% times the cost, that's the 4. Then they had what? 0.8, that's 80 pesos. Okay, good. So for us to know the manufacturer profit they are talking about here, that's what? The 4 cedi plus the 80 pesos. Then we have what? 4 cedi 80 pesos. So this is the manufacturer selling price. Okay, good. Then the question continue. The wholesaler sold it to the retailer at a profit of, so it's not my fault, so the wholesaler sold it at a profit of 25%. So the manufacturer sold to the wholesaler. So the wholesaler also sold it to the retailer. So we want to find the wholesaler also price. That one too is sold to a retailer at what? 25%. So to get the selling price, that's 25% times the manufacturer selling price. Okay, since the manufacturer sold to the wholesaler, then the wholesaler also sold it, so it continue. Tomatomery, good. So it continues. So it's also sold it to what? To the retailer. So that's what 25%. The 25% of 4 cedi, 80 pesos. You have what? 1 cedi, 20 pesos. Then you add the 1 cedi, 20 pesos to the 40 cedi, 80 pesos. 40 cedi, 80 pesos. Then you add 6 cedi, Ghana cedi. Good. Now, to find the retailer cost. So you see that the retailer mark the set to be sold at a price of 50% above what he paid for. Okay, so that's the mark price. Okay, so if the retailer mark it, that's the original price. So they say you find the mark price. Good. So the retailer is 50% of the wholesaler, what the wholesaler gets. Okay, so the wholesaler selling price, and that one we get 3 cedi. Then we add the 3 cedi to the 60 Ghana, to add to the 6 Ghana cedi. Okay, so 6 Ghana cedi plus the 3 cedi, they had what? 9 cedi. Good. Therefore, the mark price is 9 Ghana cedi, because that's what they say, the retailer mark the set to be sold, and that's the mark price. Okay, that's the mark price. Good. So you see from here, the cost of goods was 4 cedi. Manufacturer sell to what? To the wholesaler at 20%. That's what? Times the cost of goods. Did they have this? The manufacturer have what? 4 cedi, 80 pesos. Good. Then they continue that the wholesaler also sell to us, the retailer. So the wholesaler also does 25% of the manufacturer. Then we have the 6 cedi. Then the retailer mark the price that to be sold as what? 50%. Good. Then II. To the customer who paid the cash, the retailer reduced the price to 7 cedi, 50 pesos. Find the profit, find the percentage discount. And the percentage discount, the discount value out of the original price. So let's find the discount value here. So we have the mark price, that's 9 cedi minus the reduction. Therefore, this is our discount value. Then percentage discount is the discount value out of what? The original price times 100. Now that we know the discount value, then we can find for the little discount. Then our original price, the mark price. Okay, good. And this is the percentage discount. Yes, that's for ratio and percentage combined. Example 4. Under ratio and percentage combined, the estimated cost of a house was 6,400 Ghana cedi. It was made up of the cost of labor, material, and the contractor's charge in the ratio 12:15:5, respectively. During construction, as a result of inflation, the cost of labor increased by 0.5%, and the cost of material by 2%, whilst the contractor charge remained the same. If After that, after the increase, the cost of labor was 2/3 of the cost of material. Find A, the value of R, B, the new cost of the house. Solution. So it was estimated the cost of the house was 6,400 Ghana cedi. Good. And it was made up of the cost of labor, material, and contractor charge in a ratio. So this was the ratio, and the ratio was 12:15:5. The total is 32. Now, during the construction, as a result of inflation, when there's inflation, the price of goods will rise. Okay, good. So the cost of labor increased by 0.5%. Okay. So before we know the cost of labor, the cost of material, let's use the ratio. Before we know the cost of labor, so the ratio of the labor charge, that's all 12 out of the 32 times the cost of the house. Okay, the cost of the house. Then you have to find the cost of material, which is 15 out of 32 times the cost of the house. We get the cost of material. So labor is 2,400, the material will be 3,000. Then the contractor charge, that one is 5 out of 32 times 100 times the cost of the house, which is 1,000 Ghana. So now if you add all this, you get the cost of what? The house. So this is what they have under the cost of labor, material, and the contractors. Okay, so now during the construction, as a result of inflation, the cost of labor increased. So now that we know, we can find the cost of labor that increase. So now, since we know the cost of each of them, labor, material, and the contractor, then we can find the cost of labor increase. So increase in the cost of labor by the inflation, that's R%, that would be R out of 100 times the cost of labor, which was 2,400. Okay, there's an increase, so if I multiply, I'll get what? 24R, because 100 will cancel, 0 cancel, and cancel. 24R. There's an increase, and talk about increase. Okay, so become what? 24 plus or the 2R. That's an increase. That's for increase in the cost of labor. Then there's an increase in the cost of material, which was 2R%. So you have 2R% times what? That of the cost of material, which we did. That's what we have what? 15 out of the 32 times the cost of the house. We have what? 3,000 Ghana cedi. Then that one too, we had 60R. It's increase, so we have to find the total increase. Then we add it to this. We talk about increase and decrease, okay, in our previous videos. Okay, good. Now they are saying that whilst the contractor remain the same, so that's for the contractor remain the same, there's no increase. So due to inflation, the cost of labor increase and the cost of material also increase, but the contractor remain the same. So as for that one, you know, work for that, you maintain the contractor's money. If after the increase, the cost of labor was 2/3 of the cost of material. So after the increase, the cost of labor was 2/3, that is 2/3. So the cost of labor was 2/3 of the cost of material. That's what they mean. The cost of labor was 2/3 of the cost of what? Material. Is the correct problem. Now, what's the cost of labor and what's the cost of material? So the cost of labor is this after the increase, so not before the increase. So this and this. Then we can solve for the R. Okay, we group items. Here you multiply both sides by 3. 3. That's what I did here. So now 3 times this, then 3 times 3, 24. 2 times this and 2 times this. Okay. So we had this. We multiply both sides by, we multiply here by 3 by removing the bracket, multiply by 3. We multiply here 2 by 3. Then let's group like terms. If you go like terms, this 12 will come here, 120. So let's 72 comes here and this one comes here. Then after group like terms, you have this. Good. Then we are looking for R. You divide both sides by 48. Therefore, your R will be 25%. 25%. Okay. 25%. That's the A, the value of R. That's 25%. B, the new cost of the house. The new cost of the house. Since there's an increase, so the new cost of the house, since R is 25, you can find the new cost of the labor, then the new cost of the material. But as for the contractor, it remains the same. Then we add them. Very simple. So for the new cost of the house, that is the cost of labor, which is this by the R. Our R is 25. Yes, and it's the new cost of labor charge after this increase, inflation, and the material. That's 25. And it's the new cost of what? The material. Then the contractor remain the same. That one is still 1,000 Ghana cedi, 1,000 Ghana cedi. So therefore, to get the new cost of the house, you should add everything. Then the total will be the new cost of the house. That's very simple.